Ever get that feeling, like when you come back from a trip and suddenly everything's just off?
Yeah, that reverse culture shock hits you right between the eyes.
Totally. And imagine that feeling, but like amplified by 1,000. That's kind of what happened to this guy, Nathan Lands, when he moved back to the US after living in Japan for a couple of years.
Oh yeah, I caught that Twitter thread. Blew up pretty fast. People
Ah,
had a lot to say.
it really struck a nerve, right? So we're doing a deep dive into his experience, see if there's something bigger we can all learn from it.
Because on the surface, it's like, okay, guy moves back, things are different. But Nathan's observations, they go deeper than that. He's tapped into something about societal expectations, these unspoken quality standards that we often don't even realize are shaping our daily lives.
And that's what makes this so fascinating. Like, he talks about how even simple things, everyday things, are just dot different. He specifically mentioned public restrooms, of all things. Apparently in Japan, they're like spotless.
Right? Almost like a peaceful oasis compared to some gas station bathrooms I've seen. But that gets to the heart of it. In Japan, there's this deep-rooted cultural emphasis on craftsmanship, attention to detail, even in the most mundane aspects of life.
It's like that saying, God is in the details, but it's everywhere.
Exactly. It's about taking pride in your work, no matter what that work is. And that cultural value permeates everything. It's in their infrastructure, their customer service, their approach to public spaces.
And he was blown away by it, especially their public transportation system. He raved about how clean and efficient it was.
It makes you wonder why we can't get that right here, huh?
Yeah.
But think about the impact that has on daily life. Imagine commuting without the stress of delays, breakdowns, overcrowding.
Okay, stop. You're making me want to move to Japan. But yeah, it makes you realize how much we just accept here in the US.
And that's exactly the kind of low-grade frustration Nathan talks about experiencing when he came back. Pothole-ridden roads, indifferent customer service. It's like this constant low hum of good enough that just becomes the background noise of life.
And that's a really good point because, yeah, haven't we all just kind of gotten used to things being, well, not great? But it makes you wonder, if we're accepting a lower quality standard in these everyday things, does that bleed into other areas of life? Like, do we start to expect less from our institutions, from each other, even from ourselves?
It's like that old saying, familiarity breeds.
Well, you know the rest. We get so used to our own environment, we stop seeing the cracks in the pavement, so to speak. But that's why these cultural comparisons are so valuable. They jolt us out of that complacency and make us question what we consider normal.
So, if Japan is like strive for perfection, even in the little things, what message are we sending here in the US?
It's not necessarily about perfection, right? But striving for better. And maybe that's the key takeaway from Nathan's experience. It's not to say one culture is better than the other, but recognizing how these different values manifest in the world around us. And maybe, just maybe, it makes us ask ourselves, where have we settled for good enough, and could we be aiming a little higher? That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, everybody, and let us know what you think. Is there a quality standard gap between Japan and the US? Hit us up on Twitter and keep those conversations going.